This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 53rd time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live, or should I say, welcome to season number 2 of the Reviewing Network Live. This is now 1 year after the creation of the very first episode. We've done a full year's worth of shows, and we are now in a brand new season of the show. And there's not really going to be a whole lot of changes in general compared to last season. I'll try to come up with some changes down the road, but at least for this week, this is going to be a very chilled, relaxed type of week, because in terms of news, it was a very chilled, relaxed week. There was not a whole lot of big news stories coming out from Hollywood, but there was one thing in particular I want to get to, something we've been covering over the last couple of weeks that finally came to a resolution, a hilarious resolution, if you will, but we'll eventually get to that one in just a little bit here. Plus, but the main focus of today's video is going to be, this episode in particular, is going to be the fact that the fall movie season is coming. It's finally September, thank God, because good Lord, this was a hot summer. And hot summer, it was either way too hot or way too stormy, too many tornadoes. I mean, this has been a chaotic summer. I mean, but yesterday was a testament to that, because I was at the Pitt game yesterday, and it was very hot. It was everything: hot, sticky, not really stormy, but definitely rainy. Compared to the last couple of it, compared to most of the days this season that usually happens every other day. This all happened in one single day in general, because once it rained, here's the interesting thing about yesterday. Like, it was warm yesterday when we got to the game. Like, it wasn't actually that bad in particular, because the clouds were around. It wasn't until the rain came afterwards that's when it got really sticky outside, because, you know, we had a cold front come through. The humidity was still very high. The dew points were still very high. It does take a lot out of you. I think my dad put it the best way when we came out of that game yesterday. We felt like we had just been walking around Disneyland all day long, Disney World all day long. I mean, that's what it really felt like in general, just going out there and, you know, just being out in the heat and all that time. But luckily, it didn't rain as bad as it could have been. I mean, my sister and her husband went down to West Virginia to watch the Penn State-West Virginia game. And, of course, if you went to that game, you got to see the first half with no problems. But then there was like a 3-hour weather delay because there was storms all over the place. And they eventually ended up leaving the game halfway through it. So yeah, it was a very, very interesting weather day yesterday. I'm going to put it that way. And it felt like it was weird, because it was Pitt's opener. It's at home at Acrisure Stadium. When we got there, and there really wasn't a whole lot of people there. I guess Kent State didn't really have that big of a fan base that was willing to follow them, unlike last year when we went to games with Cincinnati, and who was another team that had a lot of fans there from the other team. I think maybe Boston College, maybe, but it was very weird going there and seeing not a whole lot of outside Pitt fans from Kent State. It was just mostly Pitt fans in general. There was a couple of Kent State people here and there, but it was mostly just Pitt people altogether. I mean, you saw it in the Movie Stop episode I did yesterday, which you want to go check that out. Go check that out over on the main channel. But it was a very fun day. It was a very tiring day, too. I mean, once I got home, I knew I had a lot of stuff to do, because this month I'm doing September over on the Reviewing Network main channel, so I had to take care of those videos. I didn't even have time to do the Time About the Movies episode for this week, the April 15th, 2005 week that I was going to do. But I'll try to get that done tonight. I'm feeling I'm definitely feeling a lot better now that I've had some time to get some sleep. Here's the thing. I usually stay up till about 3:30 at night. And me going to bed early at 1 a.m. after the day I had was like very unusual, but it was worth it. I got 8 hours of sleep, so you're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep usually, but that, hey, I got the sleep I needed. I'm still, it's weird because earlier today I was still feeling a little bit, very much tired because there was so much going on yesterday. But as the day went on, things got a lot better in general. I was able to relax. I was able to sit down and be comfortable. I wasn't out in the heat all day long. It definitely feels a whole lot different compared to what it did yesterday. So that's always good to know. So, it's the good thing is I didn't get nothing bad happened. I know what happened last year when we went to one of these games. We almost had an incident, an emergency, but that didn't happen. But overall, yeah, this was a very productive Labor Day weekend. And a happy Labor Day, everybody. This will be up on Labor Day itself. So, hope you're getting. If you're working, I feel you because I'm going to be working by the time you're probably watching this. But if you're not working, enjoy it, savor it, enjoy the day. Enjoy whatever traditions you can find left. I mean, I talked about one of the big ones when we started this last year with the Jerry Lewis Labor Day Telethon, and there is a video for that. If you want to go check that out, it's over on the other channel as well. But anyway, that's about 5 minutes of your time taken up with me just recapping what's been going on in the last day and a half. But overall, things are going pretty good right now, and I'm just kind of filling time because, like I said, it's not a very busy week in general. There is one story that we'll get to. But then our main focus is going to be on A, the fall movie season, because we're now in September, and B, the 2024 NFL season, because it starts on Thursday. I have my predictions ready to go, so yeah, with all that said, let's go ahead and get to what we usually start off with on this program, and that is, of course, the top 5, the weekend box office in general. Now, this is not the 4-day Labor Day weekend numbers, because those numbers, I don't believe, are out just yet. Actually, they are out, as I'm seeing right here. So let's go ahead and do this. I'll put up a list of both the... I'm going to go ahead and type in the other list as well, because I thought the other list wasn't ready to go yet. But I'll give you the 3-day numbers and the 4-day numbers for the regular... for not including Labor Day and then including Labor Day itself. But there really isn't significant changes on either one of them. Everything is pretty much in the same places that they would have been on the regular list. So let's go ahead and start it off with the number 5 movie this week. Moving back up to the number 5 spot this week, that was Twisters, which moved up one spot from 6 to 5 with $7.2 million, actually gaining 17% from last week because they actually had an offer going on that if you saw Twisters this weekend, you got like a special discount for Labor Day. I think it was like 20% off. 20% off your ticket if you want to go see it at I know Cinemark had it because there was like a big Cinemark thing where if you go see Twisters, you get like a 20% discount on seeing the movie Twisters in Cinemark HD. I don't know if that was like that for everywhere, but that's what it was when from the ads that I saw this weekend. But its gross is up to $258 million if you account for the 3-day total. Bringing the 4-day total, $8.7 million, takes it up to $259.6 million, which really, this movie has made more than enough money as a whole. So it's already made back its budget in general. It did cost like $200 million to produce, and it's already up to close to it's already at over $350 million. So not a big hit, but still a massive hit that it was able to cover its budget back in general. So let's move on to number 4, the only new release to make it into the top 5 this weekend, and that is Dennis Quaid as former President Ronald Reagan in the Reagan biopic. Reagan, 3-day total, $7.4 million. If you count for Labor Day, it's up to $9.2 million, which I guess is pretty much about the same amount of money, which is pretty much about what everyone was kind of expecting this movie to do in general. The budget on this movie was $25 million, which really isn't a whole lot in general. And this honestly will probably stick around, especially considering that the cinema score for this is at an A, and usually with that type of a rating, it usually means that that's going to stick around in general. It's going to be something that's going to stick around in general in terms of the box office numbers. Reviews for overall are not that great. It's got like a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 22 out of 100 on Metacritic. Critics really do not like the film in general, and it's possible you could do a good Ronald Reagan movie. I mean, Dennis Quaid doesn't look like a bad choice for Ronald Reagan, but it seems like the biggest problem with the movie in general is that it just feels like it's a movie that feels like it's trying to appeal to one specific audience in general. I think the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes basically says it well. Like, it says, while Reagan the movie undoubtedly admires Reagan the man, its cloying and glossy rendering of history flattens the 40th U.S. president into caricature. It really doesn't feel like there's really not much more being developed with that character in general. And you know, it's weird. Like, it's a weird movie where, like, you know, Dennis Quaid could probably make this work as an actor in general, but it just feels like he needs a better script in general to make it work. And it's got a good cast to it. I mean, you got Penelope Ann Miller, Nick Searcy, C. Thomas Howell, Kevin Dillon, Mina Suvari, John Voight, Robert Davi. A lot of talented people in the film in general, but just not a good enough. It doesn't seem like there's just not a good enough script to really carry the load here. But it only cost $25 million to make, so it'll probably make its money back in general. Probably not a lot in general, but it'll probably make back its budget over time. This is the type of film that I feel like could make its money back in terms of what happens with the audiences that come in afterwards. I feel like this could have maybe not have the same type of feeling same type of effect that the Sound of Freedom had last year, but it might just stick around enough to get it back to at least that $25 million budget. It'll be close, but I don't think it's going to be doing too much more after that. And that was, like I said, the only big new release that actually made it into the top 5. We'll get to the other 4 movies, that did not make the top 5, but we'll get to those in just a second. And if you know what the top 3 were from last week, pretty much the same as this week. So number 3, It Ends With Us, dropping down 36% to $7.4 million, bringing its gross up to $133.7 million. If you count to Labor Day weekend, it translates to a $9.5 million 4-day weekend and $135.8 million. So no real surprises on that front. Number 2, Alien Romulus, which dropped 43% to $9.3 million, bringing its 3-week gross up to $88.7 million. 4-day gross, $11.5 million for the weekend, and bringing its gross up to $90.9 million. So it's going to crack $100 million probably by this time next weekend. Just in time because of what's coming up next week. And speaking of next week, the number 1 movie will probably be in this spot for the last time, after being in for 5 of the last 6 weeks, which is, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine, which had the smallest drop-off of the top 5 movies, dropping only 17% from last week, $15.2 million, bringing its 6 weeks gross up to $599.5 million over the 3-day weekend. If you count the 4-day weekend, it's up to $19.4 million, $603.8 million. So if you count tomorrow's numbers, it's over the $600 million mark. And really, that should not be a surprise to anybody. The film is up to $1.2 billion worldwide. Just a good time, just a really good time for not just this movie in general, but Disney overall had a really, really good summer, and they needed it after what happened last year. Case in point, what happened with with Inside Out 2, which is at the bottom of the list here at number 10, bringing in $2.7 million over the 3-day weekend, $650 million, 4-day up to $651 million, but most notably, it surpassed the Jon Favreau-directed Lion King to become the 9th highest-grossing movie of all time worldwide at $1.6 billion, $1.7 billion, if you will. So that's the story on the top 5 in general. But there were 4 other movies that came out this weekend that you probably never even heard about, but they came out and they did not really do that much. And maybe the biggest one of all, with the biggest theater count in general, was Afraid, with AI in the middle, because this is about an AI system that goes crazy and tries to kill people. And that's literally the plot of the movie. This family is choosing to test a new smart home AI called Aya. The digital assistant learns the family's behaviors and routines. However, she develops self-awareness, which leads to her becoming too involved and interfering with their lives. And yeah, I saw the movie Smart House 25 years ago, and I guess Jason Blum said, what if we took that and add killing to it, add blood and murder, but not too much murder, because this is a PG-13 movie. And yeah, the results speak for themselves. The film was not a hit. It brought in $3.7 million for the 3-day gross. If you take the 4-day grosses, it's up to $4.5 million. And yeah, it did cost $12 million though, so it's not a huge loss for them. But nobody's gonna remember this movie a year from now. I guarantee you, a year from now, if you go to Walmart This is going to be in the $5 bin at your local Walmart, easily, guaranteed, if not sooner than that, because, yeah, the film looked pretty bland and pretty generic. I actually just saw the trailer for it this week, and I'm kind of glad I did, because I did not want to get my expectations high up on this, and sounds like I made the right call on that front, but I digress. Let's go ahead and move on to another movie that opened up this weekend, 1992, which is a film that centers around the film that centers around the first night of the Los Angeles riots in '92, which is where the film takes place, where you have Tyrese Gibson as a man who endeavors to restore his life and relationship with his son during the unrest following the Rodney King verdict. Meanwhile, in another part of town, a father and son confront their troubled relationship by planning a perilous heist at Mercer's workplace, and as tensions in Los Angeles escalate and chaos ensues, the two families cross paths. This was a film that produced by Lionsgate, which who has had not the best summer in general. Lionsgate has had as good of a summer as Pittsburgh sports has had in the last week. It's not a very good week, to say the least. But to its credit, the film actually did pretty well with critics. It got 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, got like an A- on Cinema Score, which is not a bad sign in general. Box office wise, it didn't do, I think, as good as they wanted to, but really not as bad as you would think, considering that it opened in less than 1,000 theaters. It brought in $1.3 million after 3-day grosses, 4-day up to $1.6 million. So I don't really think they were expecting a ton to come out of this in general, but you never know. Lionsgate is probably desperate for a hit right now. But another movie that opened up this weekend, City of Dreams, which I know nothing about, but did $1.2 million over the 3-day weekend, $1.4 million over 4 days. So, yeah, nothing much more on that one. I don't know too much about that one either. Nor do I know about this last movie, Slingshot, which stars Casey Affleck and Lawrence Fishburne, and is, of course, produced by Bleecker Street, a company that is more known for their works of Liam Neeson, the movies that he makes that basically... No, I'm sorry, that's not Liam Neeson. That's Briarcliff that he's associated with, but... Bleecker Street doesn't make a ton of very good movies, and this one didn't look like it. It didn't really look anything that amazing, and most people didn't bother even to check it out. I mean, this did probably the worst out of all 4 movies. All the new releases this week. $485,000 this weekend over 845 theaters. That's a per screen average of $574, which is not very good for this movie. And even if you take the 4-day numbers, $572,763, that's still only $677 per screen average. So this movie did not do very well in general. This was kind of a dumping weekend. This was definitely a dumping weekend this year for most movies, because next week, of course, the big thing is going to be Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, how high will that movie go? Some are projecting somewhere between $80 to $100 million. And I could definitely see that. The reviews for it have been strong coming out of the gates, so that's definitely one that I'm more cautiously optimistic now than I was when this first got announced. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out next week. So I'll let you know how I feel about that when I do talking about the movies next week. But I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out. So that is the weekend box office in general, and so let's go ahead and move on to the story I wanted to cover, which is something that we've been talking about for a couple weeks now, since the story broke last month, and we finally got the resolution for it. And let's just say that it was glorious on how we all found out. Previously on the Brandon Aiyuk saga, when we last left you a couple weeks ago, not much had changed. There was still the possibility that Brandon Aiyuk could stay with the 49ers. There was still the belief that the Steelers could eventually trade to get him. There was the possibility that a third team would need to come in and essentially make the trade possible, which I had said back then was completely impossible. Well, because when the hell was the last time we had a team that actually, at NFL trade, that included 3 teams? This is in the NBA. And I didn't do one last week because not really much had changed in general. There was a interesting little linchpin that could have added to the whole thing. When the Washington Commanders decided to trade Jahan Dotson to the Philadelphia Eagles, all of a sudden everybody was just like, are they doing this to potentially grab Brandon Aiyuk from the 49ers? I mean, Commanders don't have a wide receiver anymore, so where do they go from here? And there was a belief that the Commanders would probably be in the prime position to eventually trade for Brandon Aiyuk, but course, that didn't happen. Basically, the Commanders went ahead with not adding Brandon Aiyuk to their team. And then all of a sudden, we come to this week where Brandon Aiyuk's contract situation looked bleak at the start of the week, basically because he was missing mandatory practices, he was missing mandatory media meetups. John Lynch, the general manager, was saying that, hey, if you don't show up, you can't play. And so a lot of things were coming into play here, and there was still a lot of people in Pittsburgh believing that the Steelers will eventually trade for him. And on Thursday night at around 6 o'clock, Ray Fittipaldo, who's a very reliable insider, said that there was an 80 to 20% possibility of the Steelers acquiring Brandon Aiyuk in a trade. And so everyone got excited. And then 40 minutes later, we finally got a resolution. I'm not even kidding. 40 minutes after that tweet came out, the news came out about the future of Brandon Aiyuk. And the end result, if you hadn't been listening, Brandon Aiyuk eventually decided to stick with the 49ers. According to Adam Schefter, there will be no trade. The 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk reached agreement today on a 4-year extension that will contractually tie the wide receiver to San Francisco for the next 5 seasons. The drama is over and a deal, not a trade, is in place. He continues on by saying, Brandon Aiyuk's offseason included a public trade request, tweeting at Mike Tomlin, posting photos with Jaden Daniels, sharing a FaceTime with Daniels saying they don't want me back, granting permission to negotiate a contract with other teams, and nearly being traded multiple times. In the end, both sides came together and Aiyuk signed a long-term deal with San Francisco. Continuing on, in the end, Brandon Aiyuk accepted the same deal that he had been on the table since August 12th, per league sources. His old end does not alter any part of his new 4-year, $120 million extension. $76 million guaranteed, mind you. He took the same deal that had been there in previous weeks, hold in over. So yeah, this entire month has been absolutely pointless if you're Pittsburgh sports media. And if your name is the Pony Express, a.k.a. Pitt Bayless, a.k.a. Andrew Filipponi. So I'm not going to lie. When this story finally came to an end on Thursday, August 29th, the year of our Lord 2024, at 6:46 p.m., when I first saw this, this was my honest reaction to the news.
Hold on. Give me a break.
The Pittsburgh Steelers traded Deontay Johnson away for nothing. You've wasted everybody's time doing this. Like, where do I even begin with how much I've hated this last month when it comes to the Steelers and this idea that Brandon Aiyuk was going to come to them? First of all, let's talk about some of the things that I knew going into this that needed to happen in order for this to even happen, for the Steelers to even get close to Brandon Aiyuk, which was never going to happen in my personal opinion. First off, let's talk about the 3-team trade that everyone was talking about, because the whole thing was that the Steelers believed that there was a belief that the Steelers needed San Francisco to make a trade with a third team, and there has almost never been a 3-team trade in the history of the National Football League. It has only happened once in 1987. And what happened that day? The Los Angeles Rams, the Buffalo Bills, and the Indianapolis Colts were a part of a 3-way deal which ended up involving the Rams trading away Eric Dickerson and getting Greg Bell and Owen Gill back to two running backs. Buffalo's number 1 pick in 1988, Indianapolis' number 1 pick in 1988, and the number 2 pick in 1988 for Indianapolis. Buffalo's first-round pick in 1989, Indianapolis' second-round pick in 89, and Buffalo's second-round pick in 89. The Colts had to trade away Owen Gill, the rights to Cornelius Bennett, the number 1 pick in 88, the number 2 pick in 88, and the number 2 pick in 89, and got Eric Dickerson in the trade. The Bills had to trade Greg Bell, their number 1 pick in 88, the number 1 pick in 89, and the number 2 pick in 89, and the rights to Cornelius Bell, the linebacker. And this put this up there among the 10 players overall were traded in this draft, which is high up there with the largest trades in NFL history. The highest one being 18 by the Cowboys in 1989 when they traded Herschel Walker to the Minnesota Vikings, and they also had to trade their third-round choice in 90, their 10th-round choice in 90, third-round choice in 91, and Minnesota ended up trading Jesse Solomon, David Howard, Isaac Holt, Alex Stewart, along with its first, second, and sixth-round picks in 1990, its first and sixth-round picks in 1991, its first and second and third-round choices in 1992 to Dallas, and then Minnesota traded running back Darren Nelson to Dallas, in which traded Nelson to the San Diego Chargers for their Chargers' fifth-round choice in 1990, which Dallas then sent to Minnesota. Everybody got all that? Good, because I'm not saying it again. So, bottom line, there was no way in hell this was going to even come close to happening. Only one team was able to make that possible, and that was the Denver Broncos. There was a trade, this is from Sports Illustrated that's reporting the story. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Washington Commanders, and New England Patriots were among the teams reported to be in the running for a potential Aiyuk deal, but the Denver Broncos reportedly were also involved. The Athletic's Diana Rossini revealed Thursday that the 49ers offered a third-round pick to Denver in exchange for receiver Courtland Sutton as part of a three-team trade for Brandon Aiyuk. Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer confirmed that in the deal, the 49ers would have sent Aiyuk to the Steelers for second and third-round picks, and they proposed flipping the third-rounder to Denver for Sutton. However, the Broncos rejected the idea. Sutton would have been an interesting fit in the 49ers offense and a solid backup plan if Aiyuk did depart. So basically, we can thank Sean Payton for completely botching this whole thing up in general because, yeah, Sean Payton basically was the one that said, I'm not making this deal happen. So, there you go. And it's probably going to be a very long time since we'll even see somebody come close to try to make a trade this big and this big in general. But, so that's my first problem with this whole thing. Second problem in general. Everyone was saying that the Steelers had the upper hand here because they felt like the 49ers were saying, oh, we're tired of this guy. You know, if he's not going to show up, we're not even going to bother caring about him. Let's get him the hell out of here. Anybody that thought the Steelers had the upper hand in general, you have clearly no sense of how this whole thing works in general because the 49ers had all the pieces because one, Brandon Aiyuk was still under contract with them. Two, if the 49ers really wanted to be as douchey as they could be, they could hold off the trade negotiations until the trade deadline, and then somebody else can come in that wasn't a team that wasn't even expected to go after him and accept a deal from them. They could have pushed this back all the way to November if they needed to, but they didn't. They finally decided, you know what? We're gonna get these people off our backs, Brandon. Whatever you want, take it. And he got $76 million in guarantees and gets $110 million in the process. So San Francisco clearly had the upper hand. In general. And it wasn't even close to being another team's battle, its baby to go get him at this point. Because it just didn't seem like it was possible for any other team to really come close to that. But then let's get to the third reason why this was never going to work, and it involves our good friend Pitt Bayless. Because if you remember, on August 8th, I believe, August 8th was when he put out the tweet that said a deal was in place and Brandon Aiyuk would be coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let me see if I can find it here, because Freezing Cold Takes should have this right away because this was something that, as soon as that story broke, it was already on there. So let me see. Where are you? There you are. Here's the beautiful thing. August 7th, 2024, by the way. Sources. The Steelers have a verbal agreement in place with the 49ers for Brandon Aiyuk. All of the terms of the deals and contract details are being hammered out now. The wide receiver is coming to Pittsburgh. Spoiler alert, he didn't come to Pittsburgh. Yeah, and Andrew Filipponi never gave up on this idea that he was wrong. He kept this going and going and going until it was pretty much announced that it was not happening. And because of this, everybody on social media lost their goddamn minds. Twitter lost their minds. You know, we were hearing all these different sources, like, Brandon Aiyuk's not here. Maybe he's on his way to Pittsburgh. Literally, an hour before the story broke, someone said, Brandon Aiyuk is at Pittsburgh International Airport, which they show him at an airport, but could be any airport. It's not, couldn't really be Pittsburgh International Airport. I've been to Pittsburgh International Airport. I've been to that terminal. That did not look like Pittsburgh International Airport to me, at least. But yeah, So we've all figured out that it just never happened now, and he kept quiet, and but he did eventually talk about this on 93.7 The Fan. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's hear what he has to say. Let's hear what good old Pony Express has to say about the fact that he was absolutely 100% wrong on this whole goddamn thing. It's funny. I've tried to find that clip. It says this live stream recording is not available. However, I do have the story here. This is from the Odyssey website, odyssey.com/937 The Fan. And the article says, Pony said Aiyuk was coming to Pittsburgh. What happened? And this was written by Andrew Lindbergh, who says, it was on the goal line. It was 99.99999999999. Had to do it, Inglourious Bastards. % done. Brandon Aiyuk to the Steelers. That was Andrew Filipponi weeks ago. But on Thursday, the San Francisco 49ers signed Aiyuk to an extension, according to NFL Network's Mike Garafolo and Ian Rappaport, on a front-loaded 4-year, $120 million deal. It comes with a reported $78 million in guaranteed money. I read 76, but $78 million. He's making a ton of money. So what happened? Every time I see what happened, I gotta say, what happened? Because this feels like a situation that is more than worthy of that. Speaking on the PM Team Friday, Pony said if he gets information from the sources that gave him the Aiyuk news, he would still use them. If the same people, and it's the same... Let me see if I get this quote right. If the same people and then I got it confirmed from a different person, if those same two people gave me a story again, I would report it the same exact way, said Pony. Co-host Chris Muller was behind Pony because he had heard about a possible Aiyuk deal to the Steelers. Pony and Muller then moved on to talk about how Omar Khan should have had a backup plan if the Aiyuk trade didn't happen, which of course didn't. And that's a good point. I'll get to that in just a little bit here, but right now the focus is on Andrew Filipponi right now. But he makes a great point right there. But some fan callers took the opportunity to blame Pony, as they should. Most of the blame goes to Pony for putting out that false report a couple weeks ago, "You jinxed us, buddy," said caller Steve. It's why I say he's Pit Bayless, because he fabricates these ideas that he thinks things will happen. There's a tweet that he put out about a couple months ago at the start of August, when the Pittsburgh Pirates were in prime position to essentially make a deep run for, at the very least, a wild card spot. Where were they at in August? In August, it was I believe August 4th, I think it was. I think it was when the tweet came out. August 4th, 56-55. So the Pirates were essentially there. They were right on the doorstep. If they win some games going forward, they had just lost a game against the Diamondbacks, and they after winning one of those games, but they were 56-55 on August 4th. Take a guess on where they're at now on September the 1st. 63-73. So let's do the math here. So 73 minus 55. That is 18 games. 63 minus 56 is 7. They've won 7 of their last 25 games since Andrew Filipponi put that tweet out. Because he put a tweet out saying that the Pirates should be in position should be in good position if they do a good job in the month of August, which they did not. They only won 6 games after that point. After that point when they were 56 and 55. That is pitiful. And that just goes to show you why you should never, ever trust anything that comes out of Andrew Filipponi's mouth. Big Rico said he barely slept and after some time to calm down, told Pony he needs to get rid of his sources. I got people texting me, my buddy from San Francisco laughing, they're sending me funny texts, said Big Rico. In reality, it looked like a trade was about to happen, but something fell through for the Steelers at the last minute. And of course, they're talking here about the option from the Denver Broncos that I just mentioned. And, yeah. So yeah. Like, how do you even have a career after this if you're Andrew Filipponi? I know they're not going to fire him, but they should. Because he overhyped this to the point where everybody else in that building was talking about it because it was going to be big news. Like, it's going to be the thing that's going to push the Steelers to the next level and get them close to competing for a Super Bowl title, which, yeah, wasn't going to happen from the get-go. But, just, how do you still have a job after all of this? Honestly, like, how do you still have a job after this? I mean, I guess if you don't put out your political beliefs or call somebody a bad word, be racist, anything like that, I guess it doesn't hurt you as long as you're still making the money for the company. But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if somebody had done this to the point where everybody wouldn't shut the hell up about it, I would have fired the dude right from the get-go the moment that news broke. Because, yeah, like, I wasn't sad at all when that happened. Like, I wasn't sad at all when the Steelers lost on a Brandon Aiyuk because I knew exactly how this was going to happen. The Steelers do not get lucky with these moves at all. Everyone went crazy years ago when there was the possibility that maybe Dante Hightower would be coming. You know, after all the years he was in New England. Like, we finally grabbed one from the Patriots. Goes back to New England. And I think he ended up winning another Super Bowl in the process. So, yeah, that didn't work out so well. And in fact, every time you see like a big thing where it's just like, oh, here's this person coming in for the Steelers right now. Here's someone coming in for the Steelers, and you see like a guy standing in front of a Spirit Airlines. Like everyone thought that was Dante Hightower, but it really was not. But here's the kicker of this whole thing. Keep in mind that back at the beginning of free agency in March, the Steelers traded away Deontay Johnson. They traded away Deontay Johnson a day after free agency officially got underway. And they traded him to Carolina for Dante Jackson, a 28-year-old cornerback who has already played with Carolina for 5 years. And he's supposed to come in and be the guy that's supposed to be kind of the replacement for kind of a side to Minkah Fitzpatrick. But once the Steelers did that, everyone thought that they were going to sign somebody right away because clearly you can't go into the season with just George Pickens and, you know, this rookie wide receiver Romeo Wilson or Van Jefferson or Scotty Miller as your second wide receiver. Like, you need somebody to be the thunder to the lightning. And, yeah, 6 months have passed and not a single damn thing has happened since then. If Deontay Johnson was with the Steelers when the first story broke by Pony in August, Brandon Aiyuk probably is a Steeler right now. I said it back then, like, if they don't find somebody to replace Deontay Johnson, we're all going to be questioning why the hell you decided to trade away this guy. And now everyone is saying the exact same thing I've been saying. Like, if Deontay Johnson was still here, the Steelers probably would have had Brandon Aiyuk at this point. I saw a story this week, and I'm trying to find where it is. Here's one from Steelers Depot. This is a story that they did this week. Trading Deontay Johnson cost Steelers Brandon Aiyuk. The Brandon Aiyuk saga finally ended last night as he agreed to a 4-year, $120 million extension to remain with the 49ers. The Pittsburgh Steelers came closest to meeting the criteria for both the 49ers and Aiyuk, and they may have been able to seal the deal if not for trading away Deontay Johnson. You see, we already knew the 49ers wanted a replacement wide receiver for Brandon Aiyuk. If the Steelers didn't trade Deontay Johnson, they would have had one to send back to the Niners. Instead, the Steelers dealt Johnson to the Panthers for quarterback Dante Jackson. Reportedly, the 49ers attempted to trade for Cortland Sutton for the Broncos before trading Aiyuk to the Steelers. The Broncos would not agree to a trade, though, and San Francisco turned back and re-signed Aiyuk instead. If the Steelers had a starting caliber receiver like Deontay Johnson to send for the 49ers, this deal may have happened. So there you go. We're finally getting people that are admitting something that I was saying back from the very beginning. Throwing away Deontay Johnson right from the get-go is going to hurt the Steelers in the long run. Even if Deontay Johnson never wins anything with Carolina down the road, getting rid of him as early as they did is going to cost this team big time. Big time in the long run when it's all said and done. Yeah, Omar Khan got a lot of high praise ever since he became the general manager. And even this year, they were just like, oh, way to go, Omar. You finally got rid of the dead weight and Kenny Pickett and Deontay Johnson and Kevin Dotson. Kevin Dotson was part of the reason the Rams went to the playoffs. Kenny Pickett's in Philadelphia, and, look, I'm not going to say he's doing great right now, but I'm telling you right now, I'm guaranteeing you that when the Steelers come to... there's a possibility that the Steelers, when they go to Philadelphia in December, I would not be shocked at all if Kenny Pickett ends up playing in that game. Like, for some reason, I'm getting this weird idea that either Jalen Hurts is going to get hurt before that game in mid-December, or he'll fake an injury or something like, oh, Jalen Hurts has COVID, and he's got to stay away from the building, and Kenny Pickett will be the starter in that game. I'm guaranteeing you right now that the Steelers are probably going to lose to Philadelphia either way because they haven't won in Philadelphia in nearly 60 years. But if Kenny Pickett is playing for the Steelers, that's going to be one hell of a game to watch in terms of watching Kenny Pickett just completely embarrass the shit out of this team because at this point they fucking deserve it, man, because of just how they've botched this entire offseason with just 2 moves and nothing to show for it in the long run. They went from having a wide receiver room with Calvin Austin, George Pickens, and Deontay Johnson to still having Calvin Austin and George Pickens and nobody else to fill that critical spot Deontay Johnson had. Except for guys that are probably not going to be on this team for too much longer. Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller, let's face it, George Pickens is probably going to be gone too because Steelers like to get rid of players because they feel like they have to appease the fans who know exactly what they're talking about. I mean, good thing we got rid of cancers like Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown because they're not lifting Lombardi trophies anywhere near the future. Okay, bad sign about them. But hey, we signed Ben Skoranek. We still have Quez Watkins, even though he did terrible in the preseason. We took Brandon Johnson, Russell Wilson's former teammate from Denver. We've got options available to us. And okay, yeah, the Steelers are not going to be good this year. Like, I try every single year to be optimistic about where this team goes. I want this team to win another Super Bowl in my life. I do. I don't want to be pessimistic as always, but I'm sorry. The last 10 years have been nothing but the same thing over again. The Steelers don't care about winning Super Bowls. They care about winning records. They care about keeping that stupid record of Mike Tomlin's intact. And, yeah, while they're doing that, Kansas City has had in the past 10 years, while that's been happening, Kansas City's been to 4 of the last 6 Super Bowls. Yeah, 4 to 6 last Super Bowls. New England has put up 3 Super Bowls since the last time the Steelers even made it to the big game. Yeah. Nobody's scared of the Pittsburgh Steelers anymore because the Steelers themselves are just in such a clustered area of their life right now. And it's just like, there's nothing of value to them right now. And this roster had promise in the beginning of the offseason, but then once the preseason got started and we started realizing, oh man, this offensive line is horrible right now. I mean, when the season begins next Sunday, they're going to start 3 rookie offensive tackles. Their first 2 selections, Troy Fautano and Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, because Isaac Seumalo has a pec injury, which will keep him out for at least a month. So it's not a long-term injury, but at the same time, you got 3 rookies in there that have to protect Russell Wilson give lanes for Najee Harris to get to. And that's just putting too much pressure on them in general. And yeah, everyone's talking about now how, like, Russell Wilson has that great record against the Falcons. He's 4-0. Records don't mean shit, really. They really do not mean a whole lot. Like, we haven't seen what this Atlanta Falcons team is going to look like next week. And considering that they've looked pretty good for the most part, they've got a different coach besides Arthur Smith, which we took from them because he's now the offensive coordinator. And I'd be more excited and more cautiously optimistic if the team that I saw in the preseason didn't look like the same goddamn team we saw last year. What in Arthur Smith's offense looks any different than what Matt Canada was doing? Because I'm telling you, there was not a whole lot that looked that different. It really did not. It really did not look all that different whatsoever. And so I'm very pessimistic about where this team goes from here. And I say all of this with the fact that I'm doing a live watch of that game next week, and I'm scared because you may see an unfiltered side of me that I don't usually show that often. Because if the Steelers are playing as bad as I think they're going to be, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to snap. I'm going to be very upset, and I'm not going to lie to you. I might get a little bit more pissed off than usual. So for you folks out there, it's going to be entertainment value, but for me, it's going to be having a mental breakdown with knowing how bad the season's going to start off, and we're only 1 week into the season. But I'm not feeling too optimistic about this season. I mean, the first 8 games on paper are winnable. You got a game again. You got at Atlanta, at Denver, at the Chargers, at Indianapolis, at Dallas, at Las Vegas, at the Jets, at the Giants. An easy schedule, but we all know how this song and dance is going to go. These are easy games, are ones that they're probably going to lose. I would not be shocked if they somehow lost to the New York Giants. Who's on the New York Giants right now that could stop them? I don't know, but I'm sure the Steelers are going to lose to them. The Jets could easily lose to them, especially if Aaron Rodgers is healthy. Could lose to the Raiders, could lose to the Colts of Anthony Richardson, could lose to the Chargers again. Like, the first 8 games should easily be winnable. This team should be 8-0, and maybe, just maybe, they might have a shot. And then the hell week comes in at Washington, which, I mean, if there's anything that could easily happen, they'll probably get to that 9 wins at least. But then there's that hell run at the end of the season. Baltimore comes in at Cleveland on Thursday Night Football, which has always been disastrous for the Steelers, especially with Amazon, especially in the last couple of years with Amazon and Fox. At Cincinnati, which Joe Burrow comes back, probably this team will be a whole lot better than they were last time. Cleveland, which might have a possibility of doing something they hadn't done in over 20 years, and that's beat the Steelers at home in the regular season, not including the playoff win, of course. Then at Philadelphia, then at Baltimore. And then they get to welcome the champs, the world champs, the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas Day. And if you think if you think Kansas City is going to lose back-to-back Christmas Day games with Taylor Swift probably going to be there, you're out of your goddamn mind. And then they host Cincinnati. So this team could literally be 8-9, at either 8-9 or 9-8. If that happens, I'd honestly consider that a victory. But somehow I still feel like they're going to be worse than that. I'm going to get to my predictions for the NFL season in just a little bit, but I'm more pessimistic this year than I've been any other year. And it's not going to be because of the people on the field. It's going to be the coaching. It's going to be Mike Tomlin. It's going to be Arthur Smith. And it's because I don't trust what Arthur Smith is doing right now, because what we've seen so far in the offseason looks absolutely nothing different compared to what we saw last year and the years before that, when Matt Canada was here. Like, it's just not looking good right now. Like, it's just, I'm really, really not looking forward to this whatsoever in general, but I gotta do it. I gotta pull through it. Sometimes you just gotta, you know what, you gotta go through the pain, and this is my pain that I'm gonna go through, unfortunately, So, be sure to tune into that. That's going to be a ton of fun next week. But to wrap this whole thing up, wrapping the Brandon Aiyuk saga up, I think I think the perfect sum up to this whole situation here, I think we need to go back to Jon Stewart and how he summed up his deal with the problems with mainstream media, because let's be honest, what he said about that could easily be easily be brought into play with how everyone acted about the whole Brandon Aiyuk saga. It turned mostly Pittsburgh sports media. So, John, you have the floor.
Who can declare victory here? I believe Satan can. You motherfuckers spent 2 years filled with breaking bombshells and urgent explosions and teed up a season finale for the ages. A noose-tightened, closed-walled, family-style jailgasm. And all we got was a fucking book report that we had to print ourselves. I owe the producers of Lost an apology. This was the worst finale ever. And maybe it would have landed more dramatically if you hadn't already reported on Trump AG Bill Barr's Mueller report Sparks notes a month earlier.
So that was taken from The Problem with Jon Stewart, when he talked about how the mainstream media went insane on the whole Mueller report. But I want to pause that for a second, because that's something else I wanted to bring up too. Because here's something that's interesting that nobody really put together until this was all over and done with. Let me see if I can go ahead and find this particular thing, because this is pretty amusing, what eventually ended up happening here. Here we go. So this was the story that Steeler beat writer Jerry Dulac put out, and said, according to him, this is exactly what the Steelers expected all along. According to Dulac, the Steelers weren't surprised the Niners get a deal done, and that's what they were expecting to happen. So, just a reminder, the Steelers knew that they had no chance of getting Brandon Aiyuk, because they knew if they pressured the 49ers enough to do something, they were going to do something. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. Which leads me to ask you one simple question, Steelers. If you knew you weren't going to land Brandon Aiyuk, then why the hell haven't you signed anybody else since then? You had 6 months to sign somebody to replace Deontay Johnson, and you did absolutely nothing. You could have had Juju Smith-Schuster, but instead, you let him walk back over to Kansas City, where he's probably going to win in the Super Bowl. You could have signed any other free agent wide receiver out there, but instead, you either lowballed them, you either didn't bother to choose any of them because you thought you still had a chance to go get Brandon Aiyuk or DK Metcalf or Deebo Samuel. Believe me, they're trying to start that now. Well, time to move on to the next one. Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Jamar Chase, come on down. They're not coming to Pittsburgh. You blew this, Steelers. You blew this whole goddamn thing. You're not getting Brandon Aiyuk. You're not getting Deebo Samuel. You're not getting DK Metcalf. You're not getting even anywhere close to Jamar Chase, because I'm guaranteeing you Jamar Chase is signing the deal before the season begins. And they'd be crazy to let him go to Pittsburgh unless it was free agency. You blew it. It's over. You botched this whole thing up big time. In the words of DJ Khaled, congratulations, you played yourself. And again, I think most people here would have been more than happy to not get as upset as we did, because we let a guy like Andrew Filipponi fill our heads with dreams of a Brandon Aiyuk Steeler run. What the Steelers would be like if he was here. Instead of looking at the obvious scenarios that would have made this possible and realizing there was more than a chance that this was probably not going to happen, we let it get to our heads. And most people basically just said, I'm going to believe Pony on this one. He wouldn't lie to us, even though he's lied to us several times in the past. He's basically Pit Bayless. Skip Bayless should be very happy to know that somebody's taking his place after he retired. And this is basically just everything that could go wrong for the Steelers this week went wrong for them. Their preseason ended with no wins. Their offense looks like complete garbage for the most part. O-line at least. The coaching doesn't look any different than it did last year. If Pittsburgh sports in general was having a bad week. The Pirates are still terrible, and they somehow got even worse this week with one of the most pathetic losses in recent years. After being up 10-7 in the 10-3 in the seventh inning, and then losing 14-10 in the bottom of the ninth. I mean, the best thing that happened to Pittsburgh sports this weekend was the fact that the Panthers won their first game fairly convincingly. But even then, we don't know if that's going to be a recurring thing, or is that just a one-time thing. Because keep in mind, they won last year against Wolford, and we thought they were going to turn the season around. And then they barely won two more games after that point. I think they were 3-9, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were 3-9. I could be wrong on that, but let's just double check here, just to see. If it wasn't 3 or 9, it was 4-8. But even then, they were still terrible. I was right, 3 or 9. So that was the worst season in 25 years. So, but they had the best story this entire week. It gave the city hope again. But the Steelers, we can finally put an end to the Brandon Aiyuk saga for good. But we can't put an end to the potential disastrous season that the Steelers have ahead for us. And once again, I think we should let Jon Stewart wrap this up for us with the final thoughts on his part.
And the craziest part is, throughout the entire time, great reporters were doing impressive work, but you wouldn't know it because it was all smothered in so much news cum. And if anything is going to kill our democracy, it's gonna be news cum.
All right. So now that I have time to vent on that, at least now we can stop venting till we get to the NFL predictions. But it is the fall, and that means it's time to look at what's ahead in terms of the movie schedule, because the fall movie season is here, and that means we've got 4 exciting months left of the year 2024, and a year that has been very good for movies in general. So, what does the rest of the year have to offer for us? Well, a lot of movies that have a lot of high expectations, a lot of Oscar contenders, movies that I'm definitely looking forward to for the most part. So where do we go from here? Let's start with the big one that starts on this Friday with Beetlejuice opening up after, 36 years now. We're finally getting that long-awaited sequel to Beetlejuice, and Michael Keaton is back, Tim Burton is back. 36 years after the events of Beetlejuice, the Dietz family returns home to Winter River and to Charles Dietz's unexpected death. Lydia's life is turned upside down when her rebellious teenage daughter Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega, discovers the mysterious model of the town in the attic, and the portal to the afterlife is accidentally opened, releasing Beetlejuice. And early word of mouth is very good. The reviews for the film have come out so far. If you want to listen to Rotten Tomatoes, but keep in mind Rotten Tomatoes is a company owned by both Warner Brothers as well as Universal, so that doesn't really help you out with what you should think about them. But on Metacritic, it's at 63 out of 100, which is still pretty good, and the film is expected to do pretty well at the box office. I've been more cautiously optimistic, as I said before, about this movie. The more and more I see the trailers for it, the more and more I get excited for it, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with this movie. It comes out this Friday. Coming up on September 13th, I'm definitely looking forward to My Old Ass, which is the new film from written and directed by Megan Park about this girl who has been advised by her future self, played by Aubrey Plaza, and not to fall in love. And sure, she can follow the advice she has been given. That is until she meets the boy her older self warned her about. Reviews for this one have also been very good. 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, 78 out of 100 on Metacritic. Trailer looked pretty good. That's one I'm definitely looking forward to checking out. Produced by Margot Robbie, directed by Megan Park. Let's see. On September 20th, we've got Transformers 1, which is the animated movie based off the Transformers franchise. Directed by Josh Cooley of Toy Story 4 fame. It's an origin story set on the planet Cybertron, centering around the history of the Transformers race as the relationship between two Cybertronian workers named Orion Pax who will later become Optimus Prime, and D16, who will later become Megatron, as they go from brothers in arms to arch enemies as Optimus Prime and Megatron. And this one has Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime, Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron. You have Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Fishburne, John Hamm among the cast. Josh Cooley, of course, directed Toy Story 4, as I mentioned before. If I didn't mention it before, I'm mentioning it now, but I was the one that was really looking forward to this from the beginning. Everyone was kind of mixed about the trailer, the first trailer that came out, but the second trailer seems to have a lot more appraisals to it, and the word of mouth has been coming out strong for this movie in general, so this is a film I'm definitely looking forward to checking out. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they bring to the table with this. It looks pretty cool. I'm one of the few people that really likes Toy Story 4 a lot, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this one. We also have, I believe, we have Wolves on September 20th, which was supposed to have a theatrical release, but for some reason, Apple TV Plus just decided we're going to only put it in theaters for 1 week, and basically said that we've decided to pivot from a wide release to a limited release on the same day. In this, you have George Clooney and Brad Pitt, who play professional fixers who prefer to work alone, finding themselves forced to work together after being hired for the same job. It's directed by John Watts, who gave us the Spider-Man movies. A good cast overall in this movie, but Apple TV movies are usually not that great in general, and even the ones that are great, like Kills of the Flower Moon, aren't usually big hits. Apple's whole plan in general has not worked out in their favor, which is probably why they've essentially decided to not to put this out in a wide release, considering how the last couple movies they put out have not been big financial hits for them. Well, then again, maybe if you don't spend over $100 million on making these movies, hoping that you're going to make your profit back by just having them stream all on your service, maybe you should stop doing that. Just saying. But and apparently Clooney and Pitt got paid more than $35 million a piece, with John Watts getting $15 million to direct. George Clooney's denied the claim in general, but it's George Clooney and Brad Pitt. It would not surprise me at all if they did indeed get paid that much. I mean, they're big stars. They get the money there. It'd be crazy. It wouldn't be surprising if that actually wasn't true. September 27th, The Wild Robot, the new film from DreamWorks Animation. Probably the one movie I'm really looking forward to for the rest of the year. Just a film that looks so amazing. The animation looks incredible. The voice work looks top-notch. It looks like they took a lot of inspiration from the works of Hayao Miyazaki, and of course Chris Sanders, the director of the film, who did Lilo and Stitch, took a lot of inspiration from his work at Disney. Just looks like a really good movie, and I can't wait to check it out. It comes out at the end of the month. I'm really excited to see this movie. I can't wait to check this one out. Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, if not, just to see if the hubbub was really worth it in the long run. And of course, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes drama going on right now, from stuff happening behind the scenes with some of the extras that I will not mention for specific reasons. From this recent controversy regarding the trailer using fake reviews to try to make its point, fake AI reviews, mind you. This thing just looks like a colossal disaster, but we finally get to see if it was worth it in the long run when it comes out at the end of the month. So, moving on to October, we've got Joker Folie à Deux, the sequel to, of course, Joker, with Joaquin Phoenix back as the Joker and Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Definitely will probably be the biggest hit of the month. A lot of things that could go in the film's favor. It's a musical, which seems very crazy in general, but just seems like a very interesting concept in general. A lot of the same people from the original Joker are back for this one, so I'm very curious to see which direction they'll take it with this one. October 11th seems like it's going to be a very good weekend for movies. We got Saturday Night, which is the biographical comedy drama thriller about the events leading up to the premiere of NBC's Saturday Night, this will be released 49 years after the premiere of Saturday Night Live, as it gets ready to celebrate its 50th anniversary this year. Set in 1975, the film chronicles the events leading to the premiere of NBC's Saturday Night, later known as Saturday Night Live, featuring a cast of young talent you've seen all over the place, and trailer looked really good, and the reviews have been coming out of the Telluride Film Festival, and most of them have been very strong going forward, and it's one I'm definitely looking forward to. Directed by Jason Reitman, written by him and Gil Kennan. Just just looks like a really fun, really good movie. I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out. And then we've got a new Lego movie coming out on that same day, Piece by Piece, which is the documentary about Pharrell Williams, and it documents Pharrell Williams' life and musical career, incorporating his faith and expressing his artistry by means of Legos. And directed by Morgan Neville, who gave us Won't You Be My Neighbor, the Mr. Rogers documentary, did a great documentary about Anthony Bourdain a couple of years ago. Reviews for it have been also very strong, too. I mean, there's been a lot of good word of mouth on it. Definitely one I'm looking forward to. It's our first chance to see Universal and Lego working together after they bought the rights from Warner Brothers almost 5 years ago. It's been that long, so... October 18th, Smile 2 comes out, which some people have a lot of expectations for. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it has that same scare factor as the original Smile does, but I like the idea that they're using social media and how rabid fan bases can also be seen as kind of the more menacing than people with the cheesy smile on their faces. I mean, the smiles in here may not be the scariest thing. It's just the social media commentary that they'll have here that could be more and more intense and terrifying here. And that has me a little bit curious to see how that's going to pan out. At the end of the month, we have Venom: The Last Dance, the last film in the Venom series. We've got a story here this time around with Eddie Brock and the symbiote Venom going on the run when they're hunted by both of their worlds. And new director this time around. The trailer kind of looked fun, but knowing how the other two movies have gone, I'm not getting too much of my hopes up for it, but it could be good. Who knows? Moving into November, we've got the latest film from Robert Zemeckis here with Tom Hanks and Robin Wright Penn, and it couples the events of a single spot of land and its inhabitants spanning from its past to well into the future. And it's actually based off of a graphic novel of the same name, written by the same guy that did Forrest Gump. So it definitely feels like a lot of reminiscing for the time that when Tom Hanks, Eric Roth, and Robert Zemeckis worked on Gump, but I think it looks pretty cool. I'm still a Robert Zemeckis lover, so I'm definitely looking forward to it either way. Excuse me. But I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it's going to be a good movie. Also on November 1st, we don't have anything. I thought there was something more. November is actually looking kind of bleak, honestly. We don't get anything until... Actually, no, I take that back. The next week on November 8th, we've got The Piano Lesson, which is the latest film from... The film directed by Malcolm Washington, the son of Denzel. I believe that's the son of Denzel Washington, if I'm not mistaken. Is it? Yeah, Washington's father. And this is based off the book of the same name, by the play by August Wilson, and set in 1936 Pittsburgh during the aftermath of the Great Depression, which follows the lives of the Charles family, including in the Doker Charles household, and an heirloom, the family piano, which is decorated with designs carved by an enslaved ancestor. And cast includes Samuel L. Jackson, John David Washington, Ray Fisher, Erykah Badu, Daniel Deadwyler, Corey Hawkins. It's a movie I'm definitely looking forward to. It had its Telluride premiere this week. We haven't heard any of the reviews for it yet, but it comes out in theaters on November the 8th and comes out on Netflix November 22nd. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out. Red One, which is the new action holiday comedy from the director of the Jumanji movies, which features Dwayne Johnson as the head of North Pole Security, who must team up with Jack O'Malley, played by Chris Evans, a hacker and bounty hunter, to find and rescue Santa Claus after he gets kidnapped. And it looks like a silly, fun concept in general, with a really good cast overall, a really fun idea, including J.K. Simmons as a muscle-bound Santa Claus. It could be a fun movie. If it's as good as what they saw with what we have with the Jumanji movies, this could turn out to be really, really fun. I can't wait to see what this movie ends up becoming. It comes out on November 15th, so we'll see how that one transpires. November 22nd, everyone's looking forward to Gladiator 2. I certainly am not. Have fun with that, because I personally am not looking forward to it, but it'll probably be a hit anyway, because people want to try to make this the next Barbenheimer. At least Paul Mescal wants to have that happen, because with the next movie, Wicked Part 1, which will feature Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo in the roles of the Glinda the Good Witch and the Wicked Witch of the West, directed by John Chu, featuring a cast that includes Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, Jonathan Bailey, and the music overall has been sounding pretty good, and it'll be interesting to see how this one works. I think the trailers are doing a pretty good job of selling the film in general. But it'd be very curious to see how this transpires, especially considering that this is going to be a 2-part movie. I don't know where exactly they're going to cut it off at, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Not so about Spellbound, the next film from John Lasseter, who, if you watch the trailer for this one, this is another guy that's trying to make his previous movies seem like this is the reason why you should check this movie out, because it says, from the visionary creator of Toy Story and Monsters, Inc. and Finding Nemo, and it's just like, yeah, this definitely does not look like a movie worthy of your talents, man. This looks like something that you stole from Brother Bear and Brave, pretty much, because the plot is that you have a story set in Lumbria, a world of magic, where a young girl named Ilion must break a spell that has split her kingdom into two and transformed her parents into monsters. So instead of them being bears, it's monsters now. And it's just like, we've seen this done to death before, and it'd be fine if the trailer actually had some promise to it, but the trailer for it looked pretty bad, so yeah, there's a reason why this is probably going straight to Netflix, because this looks terrible. This really looks like a bad movie. And finally, in November, the big new release is Moana 2 for Thanksgiving, which I'd be more excited about if it still wasn't the fact that, you know, this is basically episodes from the Moana TV series that are being condensed down and reworked into a sequel. So, how the hell is this going to work out? I mean, this is something that could be, it's, I don't know, like, the trailers for it have looked pretty good for the most part, but everything else about it, though, just looks really, I'm not really ready to go into it with a lot of high expectations. This comes from somebody who really loves the first Moana movie, but yeah, this is just not getting me excited as much as I wanted to, despite the fact that most of the cast is back from the first movie. The songs are different this time around. Lin-Manuel Miranda isn't doing the music for this, but I don't know, just the whole idea that this was originally supposed to be a television series, but now it's condensed down into a movie. It just has me a little bit concerned. I'm gonna see it. I still like Moana a lot. I still like the first movie a lot, but yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up too high for this particular one. At least not yet. At least I need to see more. I need to see more word of mouth before I really go into it with a lot of higher expectations. Alright, moving into December, the last month of the year. There's a couple of movies here that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. Night Bitch is one. I mean, just with the title like that. With Amy Adams and directed by the same person that gave us A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and also Can You Ever Forgive Me? And in this movie, Amy Adams pauses her career to be a stay-at-home mother, and soon as her domesticity takes a surreal turn. And just this whole idea sounds crazy, and just the poster alone looks very, very ominous and very interesting. I'm assuming when we get a trailer for this is probably going to be one hell of a bizarre-looking film. But yeah, it's something that definitely seems like it could be very interesting I'm hoping we get a trailer pretty soon because it comes out in December, but it is premiering this week at the Toronto International Film Festival, so we'll probably get something before then, so one can hope, but one I'm definitely looking forward to just on the cast and the director alone. So December 13th, you've got your options. You can go see another non-Spider-Man's universe movie in Kraven the Hunter, or you can go and see The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, the first animated anime Lord of the Rings movie, which looks pretty good, but nothing about it here really seems theatrical in general. I mean, the trailer looks nice and all, but there's nothing in it that really sticks out in terms of, like, the animation style. It looks like one of those straight-to-DVD Warner Brothers movies, but the film itself could be a ton of fun. I'm still going to check it out, just because it's a 2D animated movie on the big screen. I mean, to see a studio like Warner Brothers putting their time and effort into that's worth it alone just to see on that front. So it's set 183 years before the events of the Lord of the Rings film trilogy, where the Lord of the Rohirrim tells the story of Helm Hammerhand, played by Brian Cox, who's a legendary king of Rohan, and his family as they defend their kingdom against an army of Dunlendings. Helm goes on to be the namesake for the stronghold Helm's Deep. So that's what I'm looking forward to on December 13th. The Friday before Christmas is looking pretty massive. Like, this will probably be the real Barbenheimer, if anything. We've got Sonic the Hedgehog 3 coming out on December 20th, which the trailer came out for this week. It looks pretty awesome. Keanu Reeves is showing up as Shadow. And of course, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are back facing a mysterious and powerful new adversary, and the trio forms an unlikely alliance with Dr. Robotnik, once again played by Jim Carrey, in hopes of stopping Shadow and protecting the planet. And everything about this is looking pretty badass so far. The trailer looked really great. Definitely can't wait to see this one. And then Sonic will have to go up against Mufasa the Lion King, which will probably be... It's going to be interesting to see how this one pans out, because on paper, Mufasa the Lion King probably should be the biggest hit of the two, but we'll see what happens here. This is a prequel to the 2019 remake, as well as a sequel to the remake of The Lion King, in which you have the Quiet Lands of Tanzania after the events of The Lion King, where Rafiki tells the origin story of two lions, Mufasa and Taka, to Kiara, the granddaughter of Mufasa and the daughter of Simba and Nala. And it follows the orphan Mufasa, who is befriended by the young Prince Taka and adopted by Taka's family. The pair become his closest brothers. Timon the Meerkat and Pumbaa the Warthog add color commentary. So, it sounds like it's a mix of the direct-to-video sequels to Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, and Lion King 1.5, which seems really, really odd, but it's directed by Barry Jenkins, who gave us Moonlight, which was a Best Picture winner. So I have to think that there has to be something of value here in this. At least to the film's credit, the animals are at least being emotional this time around. They're not just showing lack of emotion like in the first movie. So I gotta give them credit for that. I'm cautiously optimistic, and this is the one where they actually brought Lin-Manuel Miranda back to do the music for. So at least they have something going in that favor. But second trailer I thought was really good. The one they showed at D23. It's one I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, oh, I can't wait for Mufasa the Lion King to burn at the box office while Sonic thrives. Like, I want both movies to succeed. I want Sonic to succeed more, but I want to see a good Lion King live-action movie. And Mufasa the Lion King has a chance to be good, so I'm definitely looking forward to that one. And then we got Christmas Day. We've got Robert Eggers' Nosferatu remake, which had a great trailer come out earlier in the year. It's a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, who's played by Bill Skarsgård. You also have Nicholas Hoult as Thomas Hutter, Lily Rose Depp, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Willem Dafoe, Emma Corrin, Simon McBurney. Visually, it looks incredible. Looks like a really good movie. We've got A Complete Unknown with Timothée Chalamet starring as Bob Dylan, which directed by James Mangold, and featuring a cast that also includes Edward Norton, Ellie Fanning, and Monica Barbaro. And Dan Fogel, Bode Holbrook, Scoot McNairy, PJ Byrne. A really good cast in general. And the film that I saw a trailer for it during Deadpool and Wolverine. It's one I'm definitely looking forward to checking out. So hopefully we'll get a full trailer for that pretty soon. And then other than that, that's kind of about it. I mean, I thought there was going to be more movies here for 2024 in general, but nothing else here is really getting my peak interest going, except for the ones I mentioned. But probably the ones I'm looking forward to the most. The Wild Robot's probably at the top of the list. Saturday Night is another one. Transformers 1. What was the other one? Sonic the Hedgehog 3, of course. And then probably... Yeah, not that many the more I think about it. There's a lot of movies I'm definitely looking forward to, but the big ones I'm looking forward to are The Wild Robot, Transformers 1, Saturday Night, Piece by Piece is another one, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Other than that, though, other ones, I'm cautiously optimistic and curious to see what they'll be like. So, it should be a fun season in general, but not looking as promising as I once thought it would have been. But so that's my thoughts on the fall movie preview season. Of course, let me know your thoughts down below. And let's go ahead and move on to our last thing I want to cover here, and that is the NFL season predictions. So the NFL season is just a couple of days away, and if you remember my predictions last year, they weren't as good as I pictured it. For one thing, I had the Jets winning the AFC East, but of course that didn't happen because Aaron Rodgers had only 4 plays on the field before he got injured. The Bills ended up winning the division again, but I did get the Miami Dolphins in the number 2 spot for the second best record in the AFC East. So I at least have that to go for me. So I was wrong on that one. Most of my predictions overall were very much wrong. For example, I had the Steelers at 12-5. And the Bengals at 9-8, the Ravens at 8-9, and the Browns at the bottom. And then it was quite the opposite of that. Ravens won that division. The Browns were second, and the Steelers were the third. And then the Browns were, and then the Bengals were in fourth. I didn't get the Jaguars correct for the winner of the AFC South. That went to the Houston Texans. And although I was right about the Colts and the Titans not making much of an impact in general, Chiefs, I think I did get that prediction correct. I think they did win. I had them at 11-6 last year for my predictions, and I think that's exactly where they ended up, if I'm not mistaken. Because I think they did end up there. Because last year, the year before that, they were 14-3. Yeah, they were 11-6. So at least I got that one correct. Everything else, not so much. I got the Broncos wrong at 10-7, Raiders at 8-9, Chargers at 8-9. I had the Giants at 12-5 because I thought Daniel Jones was going to lead the Giants charge in the second half. It's just like he did the year before, and unfortunately, that was not the case. The Cowboys, who I had at the bottom of the list, mind you, at 5-12, 1-12, or 12-5. I didn't get the Lions right. The Lions did get to, I believe, 12-5. If I'm not mistaken, either 12-5 or 11-6. But they won their division easily. The Packers did make it into the playoffs in the second spot. The Saints did not win the NFC South. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did under Baker Mayfield, and the 49ers did make it to as the winners of the division in 2023. So I did not get. So overall, yeah, my predictions were not that strong, and even though I did get some of them correct, not a lot in general. But I did predict the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers to win their division, so a broken clock is once every once in a while, is what I'm trying to say here. But I'll try to do better this year, and by better, I mean there's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to do this. So how does this year fare out? Well, let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs, who I think will win the AFC South. AFC West once again, but I have them winning at 9-8. I think they're going to lose more games than usual, but they should still win the division in general. I think they'll lose some games to I think that the games that they probably will lose to. I think the Los Angeles Chargers under Jim Harbaugh. They'll probably lose that first game when the Chiefs go to the Chargers. There's a couple of wins there I think might be surprising ones. I think New Orleans might come in and beat them on Monday Night Football. San Francisco may get the revenge for them on Sunday. In Week 7 of the season. I think the Raiders get a win out of them. I think Tampa Bay will win one. I think the Raiders actually might sweep, honestly, because they did a pretty good job of beating them on Christmas last year. But I still think they win the division, no problem there. 9-8 in general. They should easily win the division, but but even then, it probably won't be enough for them to win the number one seed in general. I have for the AFC North, I think it's going to be Cincinnati. I think Joe Burrow and company come back on top. The Cincinnati Bengals, I have them at 9-8. For the record, for the AFC West, I have Kansas City Chiefs at 9-8, the Denver Broncos at 8-9, the Raiders at 6-11, and the Chargers at 6-11. For the AFC North, I have the Cincinnati Bengals at 9-8. I think they win the division. They get the division win over the Baltimore Ravens, who I think will be at 9-8. I don't think they'll be as good as they were last year. I have the Steelers at 7-10. I think they'll try as hard as they can to get at least to get some wins to get to Mike Tomlin's winning record strategy. But I think this is the year that it will go out. I think they will beat I'm hoping they're going to beat Atlanta and Denver. I have them as projected wins there. But I think they'll lose to the Chargers. I think they'll lose to the Colts. I think they'll beat I think they'll beat the Cowboys. I think the Raiders will beat the Steelers when they go to Las Vegas, I'm sorry. I have the Steelers winning over the Jets and the Giants. Those are two games they should win, but they probably won't. I think Washington will beat them when the bye week ends. I think the stretch run of hell begins with them not winning another game until the last two of the last 5 games of the season, where they'll beat Cleveland at home, in Pittsburgh, and then Cincinnati comes to Pittsburgh, and even then they'll put them at 7-10, which will be their worst record probably since 1999. Now watch me be completely wrong and actually make a deep Super Bowl run. And I have the Browns at 4-13. I just don't think the Browns are that good, and I don't think their record, even with Deshaun Watson, I don't think he's going to play a full season again. Let's be honest, they play a whole lot better when Deshaun Watson is not on the field. Just saying. But the AFC East, I've got the Miami Dolphins winning this one. Another close one at 10-7. Buffalo, I think, and New England, I think, makes it in there. I think they both make it in at 9 and 8. I think they just beat the Jets in general, who will also be at 9 and 8 too. But Buffalo doesn't have Josh Allen doesn't have Stephon Diggs anymore, so who's he throwing the ball to? New England looks like a better team in general. We'll see if that changes with Jacoby Brissett at the center of it, and then when Drake May eventually makes his appearance. But I think Miami's got a really good shot to win the division this time around. So one hope that actually happens. The best division this year, I think, is going to be the AFC South, and I have the Houston Texans winning the best record in the division in the AFC conference with 11-5. I think they'll be the top seed in the playoffs for the AFC. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they'll be a better team with 10-7. Indianapolis will be 7-10, and Tennessee will be 5-11. So that leads into the NFC, and starting with the NFC North, I have the Detroit Lions once again winning the division. I have them winning at 13-4. I think they'll be the number one seed going into the season. If they continue to build on what they built the last year, I think this is a good chance for them to get to the Super Bowl in general. I think Green Bay will also be in the playoffs as well with 11-6. Caleb Williams and the Bears will look like a much better team, but they'll miss the playoffs at 9-8. I have the Minnesota Vikings at 5-12, especially now that their starting that J.J. McCarthy's not starting for them. So that's already one critical piece of their offense gone from them. In terms of the NFC South, I have Tampa Bay winning the division again at 12-5. I think Atlanta will make the playoffs at 10-7. New Orleans will miss the playoffs at 10-7. And I have Carolina being better than they were last year at 8-9. The NFC West, I have the Los Angeles Rams actually beating out the San Francisco 49ers. I think the Rams build on the success they had last year. I think Puka Nacua is a nice addition that they brought in last year. I think he's going to have a breakout season this year. I think they barely get past the San Francisco 49ers to make it to 11-6. To win the division. 49ers will still be in there at 10-7, and then Arizona will be 7-10, Seattle 6-11. And last but not least, the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys, I think they'll win the division at 10-7. I think they'll beat out the Philadelphia Eagles at 10-7. Washington will be 8-9, and I think the New York Giants will have the overall worst record in the NFL at 3-14. I think they will be the one that will have the first option as the first pick of the 2025 NFL Draft. So that is my predictions for the 2024 season in general. In terms of the playoffs, it's going to be the Houston Texans and the Detroit Lions having the bye weeks, and Miami is the 2 seed, Kansas City the 3 seed, Cincinnati the 4 seed, Jacksonville 5, Buffalo 6, New England 7 for the AFC. And so the AFC wildcard games will be Jacksonville versus Cincinnati, which I would say Jacksonville probably has a chance of winning that one. Buffalo and Kansas City, I think Kansas City wins that one easily. And New England and Miami, I think Miami will win that one. In the NFC, the Detroit Lions as the 1 seed. Tampa Bay is the 2. Los Angeles as the 3. Dallas as the 4th. Green Bay 5. Atlanta 6. San Francisco 7. Green Bay, I think, will beat Dallas once again. I think the Rams will beat the Falcons, and I think the Buccaneers will beat the San Francisco 49ers to move on to the divisional round. In the divisional round, it's Kansas City versus Miami for the AFC, and Jacksonville versus Houston. I think Kansas City beats Miami is in Miami, and I think Houston will actually beat the Jacksonville Jaguars to move into their first AFC Championship game. For the NFC, it'll be the Rams versus the Buccaneers, the 3 and the 2 seed, and Green Bay and Detroit, the 5 and 1 seed. And I think Tampa Bay and Detroit will both win those games, and the championship games will be set for Kansas City and Houston in the AFC, and Tampa Bay and Detroit in the NFC. And I'm going to say that the Houston Texans will actually beat the Kansas City Chiefs this time around to make it to their first Super Bowl in franchise history. And I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will lose actually. Tampa Bay will lose to Detroit, and Detroit will make it to the Super Bowl, which would make for a pretty fun Super Bowl in my opinion. 2 teams that have never won a Super Bowl before now have a chance to do so. It'll be Houston and Detroit, and I'm going to say that the Houston Texans win the Super Bowl. I think they'll win the Super Bowl, and I think I think they're a much better team going into the season. I think they showed a lot of promise last year. If C.J. Stroud can continue the performance he did last year, I think the Texans, there's really a good possibility that they will make it to the Super Bowl and possibly have a good chance to actually go in there and win a really good game between two teams desperate for their first title in general. Yeah, it'd be cool if the Detroit Lions win as well so they can get that curse off of them. But my dream prediction for the Super Bowl is going to be Houston and Detroit, which probably means that it's going to be Kansas City and San Francisco for the third time, because that's exactly what the NFL wants, and we just got to accept it for what it is. We're still going to watch it anyway, so these predictions are pretty much pointless, and I probably jinxed all these teams here that I mentioned, except for Kansas City and San Francisco. But that's my personal opinion on what ended up happening. So yeah. Once again, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you are going to tell me I'm crazy and think that these predictions are completely wrong, and I will be more than welcome to those because, let's be honest, most of what I say here, most people don't usually believe me in. But so with that said, let us go ahead and wrap up the show with some recommendations, and we'll do that right after this. And unfortunately, nothing too significant coming out on Blu-ray this week. There's the 4K debut of A League of Their Own comes out. Sweeney Todd gets a 4K release. That's really about it. I mean, there's really nothing else in terms of new releases coming out. Because we just had the big new release week last week, and then the next week after this, we'll have a bunch of new releases that we'll definitely get into. But very slow new release week indeed. Nothing too much going on streaming this week either, So yeah, so that's pretty much all I've got for you this week in terms of recommendations, and that's going to wrap this show up for the week. And thank you guys so much once again for listening and watching, and if you want to see more videos and watch more episodes like this, we have our playlist. Check out some of those. Hit the like and subscribe button, because we update it here on this channel very often. We are currently doing Time About the Movies clipless versions. I'm just about to start 2003 tomorrow, so we're not going to be too far away from intertwining with where Time About the Movies is currently at right now, so definitely be on the lookout for that this week as well. And like I said, hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode. So thanks for joining us, and until the next time, we are out. Year 2, here we come.